Pat Brady, former member of the Republican National Committee and a former federal prosecutor. All right, so you wear multiple hats, legal and political. Let's start with the legal.
Yeah, they merge all the time, especially where we're sitting.
Which is why we love you.
Yeah.
So legally, can this gag order remain in place? Is it fair and impartial in relation to Trump?
Oh, yeah. His behavior in this trial, we can talk about the merits of the case, which I'd like to, but nobody's above the law and nobody's below the law. But here he's going way beyond what I've ever seen anybody do insofar as just ignoring what the judges tell him to do. You can't do these witness intimidation tactics or jury intimidation tactics, which is what he's doing. It's horrible behavior. And I would not be surprised by the end of it if he doesn't cut it out, that he doesn't spend a couple hours. There's a lockup right outside where the judge sits.
You think he'll do that?
Yeah, I've seen that happen before.
But
I know, but that's the difference. Why? If it were anybody else, in my opinion,
yes.
If it were anybody else, they would be in that. The judge would wave them in and say, you're going to sit here for a couple hours until you behave. But there's a little, the New York law doesn't allow the judge to do that instantaneously for stuff that didn't happen in court. So he has to have a hearing, there has to be notice, and he gets a chance to defend himself. But his behavior is absolutely outrageous. He's getting away with it right now.
So what are the other options for the judge if not that? Fines. I mean, $1,000, what?
Yeah, I mean, you got hit for $500 million. A fine's not going to hurt him. He's not paying it anyway. So that's part of the problem is whatever you do to him, short of throwing him in the lockup. I'm not saying sending him to Rikers, but you could put him in that little lockup right off. You go and they close that door. That's a real eye-opener for you.
Think of the implications of that, though,
and
right?
Again, the political side of it is, that's probably what he wants.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people believe that this is a political prosecution. I happen to be one of those. I don't think the way they charged, I don't think this case should have ever been charged.
Why?
Well, because it's a books and records violation, which is a misdemeanor, and then they kind of bootstrapped it in to make it a felony based on the fact that all this cover-up of the Stormy Daniels and the money and the way it flowed was some campaign finance violation. The reality is, it's a misdemeanor in New York that they made into a felony on a case that the feds have already looked at and said, we don't think there was any campaign finance violation here. I think what people don't maybe appreciate and gets lost in the noise is the prosecutor has a very special role. They're supposed to administer justice. And sometimes people don't need to be charged, or maybe sometimes people do need to be charged, and that's the decision they make. But when you've got a case that's this old, has been through a prosecutor.
Well, 7 years.
Yeah, a prosecutor before that declined it. You run for election and you prosecute him on this case that factually is probably very bad for the president, but legally has never been tested. This could go to the appellate court and in the highest court in New York. And by November, this might all get reversed on a case that probably no matter what happens, if he's guilty on everything, the former president's not going to jail for this. So the proper administration of justice, I think they missed the mark here. There are other cases that are going on that are more important, better cases and more significant than this books and records violation in New York brought by the local DA. It just, to me, was way too much of a reach. And I rarely agree with President Trump when he talks about these cases, but I think he's right. I think this is a political prosecution because there's no reason to do it as an objective observer otherwise, because it's just not that significant of a case.
Yeah, interesting. So you laid out what the defense will likely say throughout this trial.
Well, I don't think, the thing is on the facts of it, I don't think, there are not a lot of defensible facts here. I mean, it's pretty clear what they did. And I think that they likely will get a guilty verdict on this, but it could very likely be overturned by the court of review, either of the two courts of review that it'll go through. So, but the facts are really bad for the former president. It's pretty clear cut.
Right. Well, but the question that people are asking, we were talking about at home last night, like, what is the accusation that he did? What was the law broken specifically?
Yeah, good question. And even the judge had a problem, Lane, because you instruct the jury at the very beginning what the case is about, and they really struggled to explain to them what the case is about. And here is, they call it a books and records violation. When they made these payments to Michael Cohen and funneled them around, they recorded those improperly as legal expenses, and they weren't. They were just to pay off Stormy Daniels and the other people. But if you do that and you are trying to cover up a felony, in this case, which is a campaign finance violation, then you get to this Class E felony or whatever it is in New York. Point is, it's so complicated, and so, because the most important part of a criminal trial is when you instruct the jury on the law. And I was going through this last night. These jury instructions are going to be very difficult to understand, and they don't do prospective jury instructions, meaning that this might get reversed on appeal. They're going to get very what the state of the law is now, which I think is going to be bad for the former president in one respect, but on the other side, I think this could all come back.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.